For centuries, knowledge has been hidden in plain sight across the sands of time. Whispers of lost civilizations, cryptic symbols, and forbidden histories have been erased or concealed. What if the truth was never lost, but hidden? Welcome to Eye of Ancient Mysteries, where the past speaks and the future listens. Sit back, open your mind, and prepare to uncover the untold secrets of our world. Let the journey begin now. "No, Dick," said Daisy. "This can't go on any longer." I curled up in the armchair and tried to cover my face with the newspaper. That voice didn't promise anything good. The last time I had heard it was last week, when the topic came up about how everyone else had flyers while we were stuck with an outdated car. Of course, that meant financial ruin for our family budget, because the very same day the flyer took the spot in the garage and my old Ford was left outside exposed to the elements. And so what? Personally, I still prefer to drive to the office by car. The sky is so congested with flyers that you can travel twice as fast through the empty streets. As for Daisy, she can't handle such a machine at all. But can you stop progress? "Don't pretend to be deaf, Dick," Daisy said from the other side of the newspaper. "All our acquaintances have a chronocar, and we're living like savages." I shuddered, although I had expected this for a while. For a modest proofreader, such a purchase spelled certain financial disaster. "But we can't afford." I tried to object. "We can," Daisy declared firmly. "Freddy told me." "So that's it." Of course, Freddy. This had been inevitable since the day I brought Daisy to him. I don't know how this trend started, but in our time, everyone is obsessed with history. They spend crazy amounts of money just to attend an interesting event. And now there is no quiet corner left in history. Everything has been visited: the beheading of Marie Antoinette, the murder of Marat, crossing the Rubicon. The 100 Years' War is full of tourists. A neighbor boasted that he had stolen Columbus's egg and even invited us for an omelette made from the precious relic. It was explained why the Great Wall of China isn't intact. In the places designated for visitors, souvenir hunters had stolen one stone at a time during its construction. In short, no one is interested in the present anymore. People rush around through history in crowds, trying to discover something interesting, but not really. Even all the witch burnings have been seen. Freddy works at one of the companies that capitalizes on this situation. Time agencies. They grab tourists, stuff them into the chronobus, give them some shabby costumes, and drop them off in the corresponding era. Then they pick them up again. So one day, I took Daisy to the company and introduced her to Freddy. That scoundrel kindly offered us a little trip in his own chronocar, and Daisy immediately accepted. After that, events developed like an avalanche. It turned out that Freddy was also an agent for a company selling chronocars. With just a few trips, he managed to dazzle my wife, and that's how we ended up at the fateful hour. Is there any point in saying that the chronocar was bought less than 2 hours after our conversation? To raise the necessary sum, I had to sell my car for a pittance and sink up to my neck in debt. But that wasn't everything. The issue of costumes still had to be dealt with. As is well known, time travel requires strict anonymity, and to avoid being recognized, one must wear the appropriate costume. To cover the costs of the outfit, I had to take up not only my work at the office, but also the night guard post. And on Sundays, instead of sleeping in, I dragged myself with Daisy through ancient Irus, staring wide-eyed as bearded barbarians fought with blunt swords, while other barbarians, dressed in meticulously disinfected rags, watched the spectacle with pleasure. As for Atlantis, I don't even want to remember it. On the day of the predicted downfall of the island, so many tourists arrived that my blisters were trampled in the crowd. I saw nothing. Only at one point, the earth began to shake, and everyone shouted, "We're sinking! We're sinking, you say!" I believe Atlantis sank under the weight of the tourists. Ah, if I had only gotten off with blisters. 5,000 years before the Common Era, some savages nearly beat me to death with stones. In the Temple of Artemis, I almost got caught instead of the arsonist Herostratus. Cardinal Richelieu's servants beat me with clubs because I didn't yield to their master's carriage. And during the war between the North and the South, a stray bullet hit me. Well, you get the idea. But one day, revenge appeared in the form of our reporter Sam Barstow. He burst out of the editor's office and solemnly declared, "Sensation, boys." In short, the sensation was as follows: half an hour ago, Sam had been with Freddy and learned that an unknown document had been discovered about a massive Hun gathering, a feast or something similar, a new, previously unobserved event. This was truly a sensation. No one knew about it yet. While the special edition of the newspaper was being printed, I rushed home, sat in the chronocar, and headed straight for the specified date. I found no one, just a barren steppe. My colleagues at the newspaper may forgive me, but I had to get revenge on Freddy. I immediately went to a competing publication and made sensational revelations there. An incredible scam! Historical forgery! But the wheel had already started turning. Hun costumes were being sewn everywhere, and crowds of tourists were heading to the site of the feast. With malicious glee, I dressed in some ragged clothes, took Daisy, who had put on some outrageous baggy pants, and we both arrived at the step where Freddy's failure was supposed to happen. Instead, I was the one who failed. A huge crowd of Huns were lighting fires, roasting meat, drinking wine from leather bags, and shouting incoherent songs. What was I to do? I rummaged through the sparse bushes, ran to the nearby grove. Every more secluded spot was packed with hidden chronocars. I walked through the feast, and little by little, I realized the truth. There wasn't a single real Hun here. That's the whole story. Today I was fired. In another week or two, I'll be able to patch up the family finances. God, I just hope Daisy doesn't say again, "No, Dick, this can't go on any longer."